Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Get the Shot, brought to you by Tamron Australia. My name is Joe Orchard, and I am so excited for today's episode. I've got a legendary motion stills photographer on the show. We've got Jasin Boland. Let me just read off some of the franchises and actors he has worked with. He's been on Marvel movies with Thor and Shang-Chi, Mad Max, James Bond, Mission Impossible, The Matrix, little known franchise, The Matrix. He's worked with actors like Chris Hemsworth, Tom Cruise, Keanu Reeves, Denzel Washington, Matt Damon, Anya Taylor-Joy, Charlize Theron, Scarlett Johansson. I could go on and on and on. Jasin, thank you for coming on the show.
My pleasure. Absolutely my pleasure.
Yeah, good to speak to you. We've been planning this for a while, and this is a really big deal for me in the podcast. So I appreciate your time, especially on a Saturday.
Oh, no problems, man. It's totally easy, and I'm really, really happy to be here. And it's so funny because my dear friend Cassandra Edwards was on one of the podcasts just recently, and I was like, no way, if Cassandra's doing it, I got to do it. I got to back that up.
She was absolutely fantastic.
She was. Her insight was really cool. Like just the inner thinking of a photographer, especially when she's hasn't been in it for 20 years. She's got a really incredible insight into photography and what makes a photographer tick.
And that was her first podcast as well. And she was feeling a little bit nervous at the start, but she got into it really nicely. I wanted to ask you, do you see your stills and photos as extensions of the film or a standalone piece of art?
Actually, they're probably both. The way that I shoot on a film set is I treat it like it's a very real environment. Like I'm not stupid enough to, think that I'm a war boy, but I will work like a war boy. And one of the producers, Doug, he calls me the eye of the desert. And in some ways, when we're doing that, it's not out of the realms of reality to think that there could have been a film camera that they found and there's enough chemicals to make processing and stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, like I have a strange process. Everything that I see in front of me is very real, and so it's a standalone, but it's also part of the process. Like when I'm making photographs on a film set, I don't try and copy the director's style directly. I look at it more about me storytelling the director's storytelling. So I'm telling a story of following mainly, in many ways, the environment that the director has created. So it's rightly or wrongly, it's the way that I do it. But yeah, it's I delve more along the perimeters as opposed to inside the director's head.
What would a day on set be like for you, Jasin? And I know with some of your work, it's like sometimes it's Mad Max and you're in the middle of a desert, or it's Thor where you could be in a really big studio volume type space. But what would a day on set be like for you?
Well, a day on set is really looking at what we are shooting straight away. And I like to keep active the whole time. That doesn't mean that I'm on set the whole time. It can mean that I'm editing. It's like I'm taking my mind away from what's happening so that it can be free when I do step into what I'm shooting. So I'll start the morning off. I'll come in and I'll suss out what's going on. Then I'll probably get on my computer and start working on the previous day's edits. And then when it's stuff that elements that I need and want, well, then I'll be on set. Now I don't spend every single take shooting, especially if it's a seriously dramatic scene. I like to get my work and get out and let the actors do their thing. It's, with what we do as an on-set film still photographer is all about access. And I'd like to say the access we create for ourselves, but that's incorrect. It's the access that everyone else around you on the film set allows you to have. It's like, the real estate that I'm given from the boom swingers, from the focus pullers, from the camera operators. I mean, obviously the camera operator can't move, but I do have a habit of getting cozy. I'm either right next to the camera or I'm nowhere near the camera. It's really, really weird. But, they have the trust in me that I can literally have my camera this far away from their face, and as long as it's not distracting them, they know that I'm not going to bump them. And sometimes I do, but it's not intentional. So it's all about the real estate and creating that access.
How do you build trust with the cinematographer and the other members of crew?
Just by being user friendly and understanding that on a film set, there's camera comes first, sound comes second, and stills come third. And if I am not able to be there, then I'm not able to be there. And with the big action stuff that I do, it's quite a process. It's like, first up, I'll go to someone like the stunt department and ask them if it's okay to be here, or sometimes they'll mount me on the front of a vehicle, doing 100 miles an hour and stuff like that. And so first I have to get the permission from the driver, then I have to get the permission from the actual stunt department themselves, and then I will go to the safety officer and tell him that stunts and special effects have said it's okay. And then I'll go to the first assistant director and say, I've signed off on these three, just letting you know this is where I'm going to be. If you have a problem, let me know. So it's quite a complex procedure, I guess, to get that access. But that's where it comes into that they have the trust in me because I clear everything. And then if I sit there and I go, I'm going to be here, I don't move that far to the left and I don't move that far to the right. I hold it. And that is what gives them the trust that I'm going to stay safe and we're all going to come home at the end of the day.
The movies that you work on, of course, are these major action franchises and large spectacle type things. And, you work in chaos. There's big crews, there's large casts, there's stunts. How do you sort of find stillness and composure amongst all of that energy?
This is going to sound really weird, but on my Black Rapid straps, I have mala beads. And when I'm thinking, I just roll my mala beads between my fingers. And I'm not even joking. It completely zones me out. Like, I'll even pull out my necklace and I'll just just rub Buddha between my fingers and it's not that hard to find calmness on a film set because when you're shooting, there's a lot of elements that, as you just said, there's a lot of elements that go into it, and there's a lot of cogs in the wheel, and all those cogs and elements are churning, and I'm sort of like just a washer, so I've just got to allow those wheels to turn.
Yeah, so when James Bond is doing a 360 in the DB5 and machine gunning a bunch of goons, you're just sitting there on the side playing with your beads?
Yep. Well, I'll be making photographs first, yes, but
fair enough.
But yeah, exactly that. It's there's a lot to think about, because like on something like James Bond and Fury Road and Furiosa, I run a lot of remote rigs, and I have to have them set up and ready to go because, there'll be cameras going on a car, or 2 weeks, or last week there was a boat, and there's 20 people setting up their cameras, the motion picture cameras, and then I'll put 1 or 2 cameras on myself, and but I don't get the chance to do that until just before we're moving out. So I have to have all my rigs set up to go within 30 seconds to a minute. And then I get the grips to sign off on it. I have a safety on them and stuff like that in case it, camera comes off and, it's ready to go.
I didn't realize that you were operating multiple cameras at a time. So what's that like?
It's hectic because it's the way that I set them up. I mean, I can get a signal up to half a kilometre. But at the same time, the RF from all the sound and the cameras from the focus pullers and remote heads and stuff like that can interfere. So it's quite a tricky procedure, and quite often it just doesn't go off. I had a situation last week where the whole morning it worked, and then we moved the boats back about 50 meters and over to the side about 50 meters, and then they wouldn't go off. So it's crazy. But I also shoot with a physical camera as well. So I'm shooting with a. Do I have a camera here? No, I don't. I'm shooting with a camera and a remote in the other hand, and I've got my hand underneath to do the zoom. And it's pretty funny. People are like, "What are you doing?" And like, something like James Bond. There was the scene of the donut in the church square or the town square. And I had 5 cameras on that. I think 5 remotes and 1 physical, or 4 remotes and 1 physical. But anyway, there was a lot of cameras, and they used it must have been 5. They used 4 of the 5 shots. So, it's worth it. And, it gives you a completely different perspective. It's like on this last film, which I did, which unfortunately I can't really mention at the moment because it's not out. But, it's some of the most insane rig shots that I've ever done. And like, I show people and they're like, where were you? And it's like, well, I was over there, but my camera was, see that little black thing on the ground? That's my camera. And it's like, oh, hold on. I have at the moment, I can show you this. This is a camera which got hit by a vehicle.
Oh no.
And this is what I do with my cameras. It's like I'm quite willing to lose one, and that's a Z6 II, which is the best crash camera on the planet. And it's pretty funny because I run Delkin cards, and I pulled that out, and absolutely no problems whatsoever. But the camera was actually still working, but it knocked the lens off, and it was quite amazing. I was like looking at the screens, it's like, oh my gosh. It's the camera is still going, and it literally got hit like that.
It's always a bit of a thing in movies. I hear that if something goes wrong, you sort of keep it in, or like a stunt or something like that. If someone actually gets hurt, you keep the stunt in. And I'm glad that in the photography and in your line of work, a similar sort of process can work. And thank goodness the cards weren't damaged as well.
I know, right? It's like, I couldn't believe it. I sent him an email. I was like, you guys have no idea the new blacks and like so rugged. It's just, I couldn't believe it. But yeah, but talking about safety on a film set though, honestly, I am safer on a film set than what I am at home or, after work. And if anything's going to happen, I would much prefer it happen while I was actually on a set, because we've got paramedics and nurses and, people everywhere. I've never seen a serious accident on all the film sets that I've worked on, and I think that's a tribute to the safety officers and the stunt teams. It is safety is first. There's when you say safety first, there's nothing more important to people. We all want to go home at the end of the day.
Your photos, they include a mixture of the things that you see in the movie, cars and stuff like that. But you also have quite a few behind the scenes shots where you can see some of the cameras, you can see the directors talking to actors. How do you keep your attention between the behind the scenes stuff and what's going on in front of camera?
Well, it's one and the same for me, to tell you the truth. Like what I was saying about, I'm telling the storytelling of the director's process. Sometimes you just get these crazy shots where it's like I'm punching through. There's a good example actually from Extraction, and I show it all the time. It's like this great shot of Hemsey, with his weapon up against the back of the truck, and then I do this wide shot, and it shows like, I think it's like, I can't remember, it's 3 or 4 cameras, and there's this tiny little slot for me to get through. And that's what I'm talking about, the access that these guys give me. It's a full dance, It's like we're all in it together, and like, when the shot's done, it's it's high octane stuff. There's helicopters, there's just insane moments going on all the time. And so we're a little ball together, and it's like it's literally ballroom dancing, So the mixing the stills of the BTS, it's just a matter of positioning yourself. And I love a good BTS. For me, it's my on-set landscapes, I call them.
You've worked with Chris Hemsworth a lot, and I know you're currently working with him again now. What's your relationship like with him?
He's the most loyal person that I've ever worked with. Him and Matt Damon, and incidentally, they're best friends. And I met Chris through Matt, and then Chris has just kept me on. I think this is my 8th film with him, and I've got a couple more next year with him as well. And he's, whenever he can, he's straight on the phone, calls the producers up. It's like, this is who I want. Has like, I'm not sure. I mean, I think it's 6 or 7 on-set people, and if there's 7, I'm the 7th. So I'll be the first one not to be there. But he does everything in his power to keep his team, and I guess it keeps him happy too. So it's a really good way to do it.
You actually know a friend of mine, Ras Samuel. He was in Planet of the Apes.
Yes.
What was it like working on that one? Because CGI is a really big component of that movie, and a lot of the movies that you work on include that. So how do you manage to get good shots when you know that there's going to be set extensions or CGI or replacements or things added?
Okay, well, there's 2 ways of looking at that one. Planet of the Apes is one way of looking at it, and then Jurassic World is another way of looking at it. So with Planet of the Apes, all the characters are mocap, except for, like Freya's character, the humans. So I do exactly what I said before. I treat it like it's very real. So I completely switch off that, they're in ape suits and, in mocap suits acting as apes. Now, with that, I also went to ape school with them, and I would lie on the ground like Jane Goodall, and they would move around like the apes and making their noises and swinging from things and stuff. And I would just lie on the ground like I was photographing them in the jungle. And it was absolutely fascinating because with that, there is so much genetic inheritance that is retained in us from apes. It's really quite incredible to watch. And he'll tell you the same thing, I'm sure. It's the movements, the noises, everything. It's quite phenomenal. And so I'd never done a full mocap movie before. I've had mocap characters, but not like this. So I actually found it incredibly fascinating to watch this whole procedure. And like I was saying, it is what it is. I can't change anything. I was hired to do what it was. Sure, when we had the humans, I could go back to my normal style. But when we had the actors as apes in the mocap suits, I just photographed them as if they were apes. I didn't do anything different at all. But it also gave me so many incredible behind the scenes photographs that, a lot of people don't get to see. So that in itself was a powerful experience for me. Then you take Jurassic World. Now, this is the key to Jurassic World or Kong or, Godzilla, whatever, is I'm looking at you right now and I'm making photographs of you. You're an actor. So everything that we shoot pretty much is this way. But when you turn back around onto me and I'm Godzilla, well, then that's visual effects world. So I don't see it anyway. So it's really, you're almost shooting half a film. So, Jurassic World, that was just like one of the great experiences for me as well, there's not too many films that I haven't had amazing experiences with. I've been so blessed in my career. As you said in the beginning, I don't take it for granted the franchises that I've worked on. And there really have been some big ones. And and Jurassic World, which you left out, by the way.
Sorry,
Jurassic is one of the biggest of all of them, and it's it's still ongoing, like Bond is, and to do. I would like to do more Jurassic Worlds, especially with Scarlett and Johnny and that. The team there are great, and the producers I work for, Frank Marshall and Pat Crowley, and Dennis Stewart, obviously, they're amazing and extremely loyal. And I go back to the Jason Bourne movies with them. So that's how long relationships last for in this industry.
You sort of alluded to it earlier with all of these big action franchises that you've done. Do you have any interest in shooting like a drama or a comedy or some, black and white neo-noir Cannes Film Festival entry type thing? Or do you want to sort of stick mainly to the action?
I do film noir. It depends on what the project is, I'd do anything. And then it would obviously depend on the director and the director of photography when it came to drama. But, I thrive in an action environment. It's what I do. It's what I'm known for. Especially with the science too. It's almost a protected species being an action photographer because of the science with filmmaking is it's 50th of a second, and obviously you can't freeze any action at 50th of a second. So my job is pretty protected there. If I can just keep doing action films for the rest of my life, then, I'll do that. I'd be quite happy to, with James Bond, I don't do main unit, I do action unit only. And that all came about from them looking for a top main unit action photographer to do the action unit or second unit. And I got the gig, and I've done the last three. So Amazon is one of my clients. Fingers crossed that I get the call in again. But it may well have all changed. I might have tapped out at three. Who knows? But I'll be quite happy as I get a little bit older to just concentrate on the action on second unit and set up my rigs and get strapped to the front of a car and hang off trains and buildings and whatever.
Yeah. Do you have any projects or photos that have just stuck with you for one reason or another?
Yeah, there's always an image that probably looks really easy, and it ends up being like the hardest thing in the world to shoot. Like from the last extraction when we were shooting in Czech Republic, and there's a helicopter shot that I did, and I'm standing on top of a train, and the helicopter came in, and all these guys are jumping out, getting off, and then Fred North, the helicopter pilot, he's banked the chopper to get out of the way, and there was one more guy left in there, Chili Palmer, and he's jumped out, and he's like mid-air, like halfway between the chopper and the roof of the train, and the train's doing 80 kilometers an hour. And it was like it just froze in time. And my instinct was to zoom in on Chili as he was jumping out. But there's something in my head that just said, no, hold it. And I'm full frame. When you see this, I'm sure you've seen it or you will see it. But I kept it full frame. And it's like the tail rotor is like maybe 3 meters away from me. Again, I'm totally safe. It's all, I'm protected. I've got an exit. I've got an out. But it's an insane shot, and it could have been ruined from me wanting to go for the action, and then it just would have looked like anything else. But the way that it was captured in the end was just, I don't know. I just love the fact that I was able to hold myself together and not have the little, well, what would it have been? The devil or the angel telling me to zoom in? Probably the angel would have been telling me to zoom in, and the devil was like, hold it.
Do you often get that? You feel conflicted about what to focus on and what to do?
Every day. And I think, especially with action, and I think that is probably why I like to use multiple cameras, because I don't know. And, when I set up a camera rig, none of them might go off, and it'll just be the physical camera that does. So, I guess I'm a bit like hedging my bets at a casino, but it's I'd like to say it's not always like that, but it probably is actually. And I hate the thought of missing out on something. Like, even when, if we do multiple takes, I'll move in, to get everything I can. Especially when we're doing like wider coverage, I can get all my shots in the wider coverage by moving around. Because sometimes these days, you can pop in and it'll be like, the camera will be, maybe 30 centimeters to 45 centimeters away from a face, and there's nothing for me there. So I need to try and get everything that I want as soon as I can, and then I can walk away and go and edit, and I'll come back and do some behind the scenes images.
What's in your backpack? So there's up to 5 cameras. There's be 5 lenses too. There's rigging equipment. Like, do you have like 5 suitcases full of stuff that you take with you to set sometimes?
Yeah, I travel with 100 kilograms worth of gear, and that all ships before me. And it's funny because a lot of the time you might only use the stuff once or twice, but if you don't have it, you don't get the shot, do you? So, I take everything with me, and I'll know what I want for the day. Generally I have a big think tank pack, which is my day pack for outside, and in that I will have 2 Z9s, 24 to 70, 2.8, 70 to 200, 2.8, and a 24 to 120 f4, and then I will have, for low light on set, I don't use the zooms. I go straight to my Nikon primes. Like, I've got all the 1.2s, which are just like the most amazing lenses I've ever used. The bokeh is completely circular. And it's pretty funny because I'll just go back a little bit. In the think tank, the lenses are on the cameras and they're set up so that I pull them out. So they're ready to go. And then when I go to the on-set stuff, the low light, I take the lenses off those cameras. I leave them in the think tank big backpack, and then I go to Pelican Airs, and I have them set up so that I can take 2 primes with the Z9s, the Nikon Z9s, in the bags with the lenses ready to go as well. And then I have another Pelican Air with just prime lenses. So in one bag I have 2 cameras with 2 lenses, and I'll probably have like a 24 1.8 in there as well at the moment. And then the other one I'll have on standby a 24 to 70 2.8, a 35 1.2, a 50 mil 1.2, an 85 1.2, and the 135 Plena. And so there's probably $15,000 to $20,000 worth of lenses in that kit. And
insane.
Wait for this. I don't think I've used any of them over F2. Because there's no need. I mean, like, I'm in that environment. So if I'm going to use those lenses, my life is governed by shutter speed, right? Because of the action film. So I need the highest shutter speed I can get. And so, I need those super fast lenses. And so they have to be able to perform at f2.
You mention on your website, quite specifically, The Matrix and Mad Max Fury Road as these highlighted projects. What made both of them so special to you?
Probably the difficulty. There was many challenges on both of those cameras. There was many difficulties on both of those films, and with Mad Max, there was times when I would roll up to a set and my heart would sink, and I managed to turn that around. That energy, it would pop out and then it would come back through the lens as these amazing images, because I really had to fight for those images on Fury Road. Matrix, I was pretty green, and I would have liked to have been now doing that, because I think that I don't know whether I would have got better images. It's interesting. The Matrix is really interesting, actually, because I go back and I look at the back catalogue, and there was a time when there was many images from that film that didn't resonate with me, and I didn't even really like. And as I went through the back catalogue, as my style of photography refined, I really started to enjoy those images. And they're more indicative of my style now than what they were then, which is kind of weird. I already had the style, but I didn't realize that it was a better process of doing it. So, I mean, and talking of that, where I am now with my photography is, I know my way around a camera. I know my way around a film set. I'm still learning every day. I'm still getting better every day. Like every film, like, I sit there from the last film that I did, and my images are still getting my images are still getting better, and that I think only comes down to refining my style. It's not learning new things. It's just I now have the time of refinement.
Has time been a friend to you, or sort of in the way at times?
No, it's an absolute friend. I'm still. I really don't think that I'm even 10% less physical than what I was 10 years ago. I don't really feel anything. My eyes are a bit blurrier. But, I mean, like I have diopters in my cameras and, things like that. But physicality wise, I'm still climbing up on top of buildings. I'm still being harnessed off moving vehicles. I'm sure there's going to be a time that I might have to slow down, but even if I have to slow down, I can put rigs on things. So, I don't know. I mean, like, I would like to at least do another 10 years, but I'd be happy with 5 to 7, and I've said 5 to 7 for the last 3 years, so I'm going to keep saying 5 to 7. So, look, I'm in no rush to retire. Film set is my happy place. My family love coming to visit. They get what I do. My kid gets flex with his buddies and at school with what Dad does, and I get a kick out of it. I can't wait to look at the images that I've got and go through that editing process. And and worth saying too, when you talk about time, to answer it even more simply, time has got better for me, because with everything that we do, with what you do, with anyone that's watching this now, success only comes from failure. And my career is full of failures, whether it be, I got kicked out of photography school on the first day. I was fired from being a camera loader on my first film job, which has then pushed me into being a unit photographer. Of messed up shots. I mess up shots every day. Like every day I'll be like, damn it, I missed that. And then I'll go back and I'll make it better. So, I can't stop banging on to people enough that success only comes from failure. You got to keep banging at it. And you don't start off as the best photographer in the world. You don't, one of my son's friends, well, actually the twins, Max and Gus, their dad was a professional footballer, and we are talking about that last night. And I was saying, the first time you picked up a football, you didn't kick a goal, and that's exactly right. You don't. You have to work at it, and it takes a lot of dedication. And a lot of people too. Without getting too deep into it, I'm sure there'll be some enthusiasts watching this as well. And the one thing that I'd say there, I don't know, this is probably going to be a question anyway, but it might not be. But if any tip that I would have is you shoot manual, especially with the digital cameras and the mirrorless now. You've got an EVF, you've got a big, beautiful screen. Use your own eyes to tell you what the exposure is. I mean, that's what they're there for. Get it right first. And you're going to learn more in a week shooting every day on manual than what you will in a year shooting on aperture priority or shutter priority. Or, I don't understand why people use auto ISO. I understand it for filming because it keeps a constant aperture, but I don't understand it for any other reason. And, I'll get you'll get comments downstairs here saying that I'm an idiot. That's great. But I just do not see the point in, you know, you got to be the boss. You know, you got to tell the camera what to do. You don't let the camera tell you what to do. And, you know, we're really good friends. But when it comes to who's in control, I'm in control of the camera. Don't let it put you in a position that your judgment can go wrong.
If anyone comments and says that you're crap at what you do, you're an absolute action star. You're a total legend. So, you know, we've been going for quite a bit, and I feel like I could talk to you ad nauseum about all sorts of different things. But seriously, Jason, this has been an absolute highlight in just the podcast journey. Thank you so, so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else that you wanted to leave the fans with who are listening now before we wrap it up?
No, I think I probably, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And I could talk to you for hours. So next time you come and visit your grandparents on the Goldie, and if I'm
Yes.
here, we're going to go out for a beer and talk photography. Because I don't get to do that all that often. And no, it's been an absolute pleasure being with you here today. And you know, the whole team at BR, always very supportive of what I do, and you know, you guys, I know on the box it's like, you know, the coolest stuff, and you guys really do look after the coolest stuff, and you know, it's great too. You know, Tamron makes some amazing lenses for the Nikon cameras and for all cameras for that matter. You know, obviously I'm a Nikon boy, but it's a pleasure to be here and just share a bit of my process. And I think that you know, what I said before, success and failure and shooting manual, I think that's a good way to end up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jason. And thank you, everyone. We will see you next week.